So do you, in that the draft that you've got ready, how much money in total have we raised from listeners of the space?
For 2023, it was, what we spent on fundraisers was, we raised $400,000 and we contributed $200,000 in round numbers.
Okay, and how much of that total $400,000 does that include the private donors, or was that?
Yes,
that's both. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much of that was private donors back then?
It was about $250. So we had a surplus of about $50K.
Right.
Going into 2024.
Okay. And what is our current bank balance at right today?
Well, I didn't check it today, but the last time
Roughly.
I checked it, it's 53,000.
Okay. So who does the transactions on the account? Do all of the board members have capacity to use the bank account, or is it limited to a few people?
It's limited to a few people.
And who are those people?
It's me and Joe at the moment.
Okay.
But Joe's not initiating anything without me. And it used to be Robin and me. I mean, basically Robin doing it and me looking at it.
And you said you and Joe have access, but you're the only one who uses the accounts now. Is that so you can get a handle on making sure that there weren't any deposits or withdrawals that you didn't know about, so that the records were always clean?
Yes.
Right. How long's it been since Joe used the account?
He has used it for the storage, which he wasn't supposed to do, and he is going to repay us for that. So that was within the last month.
This is one of the things that came out in the public disclosure that I've seen is there are quite a lot of charges for storage, gasoline, things like that. What is Mriya Report storing that we require a storage unit for?
Well, it was up until the end of May. It was authorized by the board. At that point, the authorization was taken away. The point of that, and it's outlined on the financials. I called it refugee operations because that's exactly what it was. It was furniture and housewares for new Ukrainian refugees to the greater Toronto area. And the vehicle rental, the gas charges were for the moving company that set these new Ukrainian refugees up with a new apartment that was donated by churches or by individuals or subsidized, etc.
Yeah.
We made a decision that after that fundraiser, so including the current one for the first fundraiser, we are going to that we were going to take 15% out of everyone, the small donors, the match donors, every donor, and apply that to the operational expenses and report. So the number that Cena's been reporting in the All-Con on this fundraiser are net of that 15%.
Okay, so questions then on Citizen Gunfighter. I had asked, but we never actually heard how much money we raised. But I understand that's something around $60,000. Is that correct?
Our total is $48,188.
Okay, and has that all been delivered to Ben Goldhagen?
$38,188 has been donated. Okay. Lou's check has not yet arrived.
Super. So in the examination of the accounts and the bank statements to do the Form 990 that you put together, did you find any evidence of misuse of funds by Mriya Report in the form of any personal benefit provided to anybody or self-dealing, anything like that? The big things that would cause problems for a charity.
Absolutely not.
You were able to.
I was really examined with a microscope all of Joe's expenditures on gas and fuel and moving expenses and truck rental and storage lockers, and it was all kosher. I mean, I think he's out thousands of dollars of personal money, quite the opposite of what is claimed on the internet. I've seen those posts. I've looked at them. I mean, they're cherry picking bank statements. This whole 85% of the first donations were taken by Joe, and he used them for whatever bullshit. Mm-hmm. That's just not correct. I mean, that's correct by that one bank statement. But it's not self-dealing. It's doing a very important role for Ukraine that was authorized by the board from the beginning. So it's not self-dealing. It's
the big problem.
It's maybe not well communicated, but
that's the issue. That's particularly the issue, because when you see things like pizza and a lot of fuel and storage units that we don't really even know we need for what our activities are. We never really even heard, the details of what we're doing in relation to, the refugee support and all that in Canada. There was never any discussion with us about it. So it looks a bit strange when you look at that limited sample. That is exactly as you say, a limited sample, and could be explained thoroughly. But there are other things. There are things that Joe has said in relation to his activities. Are you aware that of all the spaces that Joe has held since the 16th of August, when you sent out the Alcon about his conduct in relation to using Mriya Report's brand, speaking about Mriya Report in other spaces he's hosting, and you, in particular, hosting spaces with people like Sarah Bills, DD Politics? Are you aware of all the space operation he's done? And did you approve all that space operation as you said you would in that that Alcon on 16 August?
I would have to say that although he's told me about some of them in advance, which I then approved, the ones he actually told me about, he has not actually told me about all of them.
And there are 26 instances, 26 spaces, 11 of which have included Sarah Bills and other PNGs like David, known Russian disinformation agents. And he's quite friendly with her in those spaces, I must say. Chit-chatty. And he's made some statements in those which are also problematic. Are you aware that Joe Friedberg on the 19th of September said in a space with Sarah Bills in a conversation that he had donated $500,000 to $600,000 of his own money to Mriya Report, and then during that session also solicited funds to be sent to his personal Buy Me a Coffee account, which he said he would pass on to Mriya Report. And then in that conversation, Sarah Bills claimed that she shared the Buy Me a Coffee account with Joe. Now it's her statement. I can't verify any of it, but that space clip that I've heard in particular is very problematic, because I'm pretty certain Joe hasn't donated $500,000 to $600,000, including interest, to Mriya Report are you aware of Joe's contributions being that much?
He has talked to me at some length about the actual value of in-kind donations when it came to the refugee situation, and where he's bought furniture and given that away. When it didn't go through the books of Mriya report, he has not donated up to this point. He's talking with me about one that's imminent, but I want to just be like a Missourian on that, wait till it happens. So he's talked to me at length about in-kind donations that he's made to the cause of Ukrainian refugees, and perhaps he's thinking about that, and that seems like a high number for those items, but he has not up to now made cash donations to Mriya report.
All right, so that was the questions I had about all the past, the stuff that I want to follow up on that is troubling to me, particularly the stuff to do with financial, which there may be no problem there, but there's still appears to be a very big problem with transparency and accountability from Joe in particular. But this is why we get very concerned when things happen and there's no board minutes published. We never know what's going on. We're not really aware, and then there's so much delay in reporting things that it certainly makes you wonder. And the actions of Joe in particular, since you're Alcon, I find deeply disturbing myself without some prior authorization to do it through even if the organization is being used as an agent for the Canadian government, the board should absolutely know that that's happening if it's required to be kept confidential, and we should be informed of what's happening. And just the transparency is terrible about what we're doing and why we're doing it, from my perspective.
On the outskirts of Toronto,
and Scott or Sino or Heather, have any of you folks on the board seen any evidence of the scope of these refugee operations that has taken place? I mean, what seen inside, who he's helping, how many people, what specifically is going on in that area? It does the refugee activities that he's supporting, does it meet the test of fiduciary responsibility for management of donor funds to recipients that we would otherwise send to Ukraine?
Sina, you've seen the most of any of us. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so I saw the storage units and I saw the equipment that is in their bags full of clothes. If I understood your question right, I didn't see a process going on where this was handed out to refugees. I don't know if this was your question. Please say so. But I saw the storage units and the equipment in there, and also the worker or a person from the storage unit itself. So,
yeah, I mean, it's just for instance, if we were giving this money to the hospital in Kherson, they'd prove that they got the devices we sent. We'd be able to see what they're doing with it. We'd have some measure of the scope of what they're doing and for whom. And refugee operations in and around Toronto that nobody at Mriya Report ever discussed. Well, in the last 2 years that I've been here, nobody's ever discussed with me the scope of these operations, what they were cost, what they were for, how many people they'd serve, that sort of thing, which leaves it a little bit murky. Do we have any insight to the scope of the activities, how many people are being served, and who and where they're from, some details about them, as we would with any charity inside Ukraine?
That's a good question. I think we could get those numbers. I know Joe has records. which I saw some of the documents when I went up to visit him. But I wasn't drilling down on that, to be honest. So we could certainly ask for, an activity log, a number of immigrants served, a number of apartments, and, basic sort of KPIs for that.
I mean, because that area in Toronto, in and around Toronto, where activities are taking place, we don't know the scope of it, and that Joe's been handling quite a lot of money there for things that, could easily be construed as inurement. Seems problematic that we don't have a lot of transparency in that area.
Yeah, that's a decent point. Heather wanted to say something, and then you took your hand down.
Yeah, I was going to try to clear. I felt like what Will was asking was a little murky, but I think I got what he was saying. But he's now clarified it, looking for an accounting of who got the aid and where those donations went to exactly, like the list of people who benefited from that. That's what you're looking for, right, Will?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you look at the financial information that is out in the public domain now, accompanied with Joe's behavior in spaces and his breaking of agreements that he's made, clearly evidenced, and what appear to be boastful and chatty conversations with people that, frankly, are going to end up in supermax prison, in my opinion, at some point, is, it's very troubling. It's disturbing and it's it doesn't meet the test of the code of conduct. From my perspective, looking from the outside in, the organization appears, and I've been out in the public trying to defend the organization for a while, as you well know, especially harnessing on things like these 990 reports that are required. I mean, my basic problem, as you know from my questioning here, is I have a serious problem with whether or not Joe is a fit and proper member of a board of a charity, or this charity in specific. And I wondered if anybody in the board has had any questions amongst yourselves about whether Joe is a fit and proper person to serve on the board anymore of Mriya Report, given, his obviously chaotic activities that we've seen over a number of years, the chaos and turmoil he causes, and then now these continued issues of bringing discredit to Mriya Report by using its name, talking about it, and being the known founder of it in these spaces, making, I believe, unsupported statements. If Joe has provided $500,000 to $600,000 worth of donations in cash or in kind to Mriya Report, I would be amazed. I don't believe that at all. And his statements to Sarah Bills and hostings, but I just find his conduct to be, I would call it unbecoming of the head of a charitable organization, and that's why I focused in on the questions of whether or not there is evidence of his mishandling funds. But do you guys on the board, have you ever talked about removing Joe because of his activities?
We have. And I mean, my conclusion is that the cure would be worse than the disease, and that more trouble would ensue, and it wouldn't also be fair. So that's just the second part after we have discussed it. That's all what I personally think.
Okay. So you still believe Joe's more of a asset than a liability in Mriya Report, is that correct?
Yeah.
Sina, do you share that opinion?
Yeah.
And Heather?
I'm thinking how I want to answer this. I at times.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to answer. I put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
no, it's okay. You all deserve an answer. I mean, quite honestly, I go back and forth. There are times that I feel like it's not worth it, and there are times that I see that there can be benefit, and so So I go back and forth on it, and I have a hard time. I have a hard time with some of the things Joe does on Spaces, and I don't agree with some of the things Joe does on Spaces, and it is very frustrating at times. But I've been willing to listen to what Scott has to say and what Sina has to say, and be a little patient and tolerant to see where a couple of things go that are being worked on in the background. And I think that I have expressed to Scott for sure. I'm not sure about Sina that I think that there is a limit, and that there's a point that I have in my mind that where it won't be worth it anymore, and we're not quite there yet, but that time is coming, and so I hope you guys all understand that. There are, I think, some good relationships that Joe can help Mriya Report establish to be able to move Mriya Report forward. And that is what I'm holding out for those to happen. And for that to be able to move forward. In the meantime, yes, there are things that are very frustrating. There are things that are very disappointing. There are things that are at times very hurtful, and I'm trying to find a middle ground compromise that I can live with, and I think the organization can live with. And it's not easy.
And this is really hard because I don't believe that I or any of my colleagues here in this room should be in a position where Will or anybody else has had to ask the questions that were asked today. And so I have lent my credibility to Mriya Report. And from what I have heard today, that is something that I can no longer do in good conscience. If I ask myself about what it means to care for an organization, if I ask myself what it means for an organization and its leadership to conduct themselves confidently, when I ask what it means, even at the most minimal and basic level, to have transparency, which is one of our stated values. I am in a position where I have doubts. And those doubts are such that I can't see any way that they can be resolved. And so with a heavy heart, I would like you to know, Scott, Heather, colleagues, I hereby tender my resignation, effective immediately. I am severing all ties with Mriya Report. And Scott, please be expecting a formal letter of resignation from me within the next several hours. It's Scott@MriyaReport.org. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. thank you. And I appreciate the friendships of all of you. I respect all of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, I'm very sorry to see you go.
That means a lot. Thanks.
Nancy, go ahead.
Hey, Scott, thank you. I have been on boards of small organizations for over 20 years, and I have dealt with receiving, as a new board member and as a new board president, shit shows from prior management. It's not easy. It is very difficult. But it does not absolve the current board from the responsibilities that it sounds like you're working through, but it's still very murky. And Joe's latest behavior in these spaces and continuing to consort with Donbass Devushka concerns me even more. I have professional codes of ethics that I have always worked by that would require me to distance myself from such malfeasant individuals, and to be associated with a board member of a charity who is continuing to do such an association so frequently and apparently not even honoring the commitment he made to you and to this team is something I can't stand by. So effective immediately, I will also tender my resignation. I do have some administrative access, as you know. I am not using it. Sina, please remove it immediately. And the host phone that is currently running is my personal device. I will close out of the space and ensure that the credentials are removed from that device. That is the only place those credentials exist in that I have. And it breaks my heart to do this, but I don't see that this is something that can be repaired at this point, and I cannot be a part of it. Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Hi. So I have two things. First is a question, Scott. We had talked a while back, weeks ago, after I had the freak out when it was decided that we would be taking 10 or 15% from the future charity drives, right? And you had told me that there would be a public post on the Mriya account or a verbal disclosure in one of the spaces, and we would put something somewhere on the website. Has that been done yet?
No, it hasn't. But I am planning to do that.
There have been a lot of plans, Scott. I really don't have anything more to say other than I am very sad it has come to this point, and I tender my resignation following all of what TK Bach said verbatim. You will see it within a couple of hours. Please remove me from all accounts. I wish everybody well.
Jenny.
Can I go if Jenny's not going?
Sure, go ahead, Marcus. I don't hear Jenny.
Yeah, okay. So, I'm so sorry, guys. I love you all, I really do. But Joe has been the problem here from minute one, and we know it. And I personally detached myself from him a long time ago, but not really, because he brings flipping shame and reputation harm on us on a daily basis. And I can't continue if all the people start to leave. I can't do it all by myself, and neither can Prince Heather. So I'm just, here's me saying, for the longest time I've been saying how much of a liability Joe is to us. And whether it's legitimate or not, it's too difficult to get him to just behave like a human being. And I, for one, and I know an awful lot of other people here, have absolutely had enough of it. And I'm so sorry, but I can't continue either, not being part of what is attached to him. I'm so sorry, because I'm going to now go away and cry. Yeah. I love you all, I really do, but this is the most difficult thing that I've had to do, ever. I love you all, but I can't continue like this because Joe just brings us so much shame and trouble. And the stress of it all is too much. It's just too much. I'm so sorry. I do. I love you all.
Love you too.
I found the unmute button. It was hidden. So sorry about that. I came on when I had a lot of time, and I don't anymore. And so for me to resign is actually quite easy. I will leave all the chats and everything and remove me from any emails and everything. Unfortunately, my life situation has changed where I wouldn't be able to do as much co-hosting, and I haven't been able to do it for August and September. But also the things I heard tonight, and this is the first Alcon meeting that I have had the login information to, which is kind of weird considering that I've been on the team since February, but it is what it is. Somebody forgot to add me to the Alcon chat, and I have never been able to be at any of these meetings. But I'm concerned after the things I've heard tonight. My letter of resignation will also be in a few hours. Thank you.
Bella.
I believe Alex was before me.
Okay, Alex, go ahead.
Pursuant to discussions with my legal counsel, I am also resigning.
Okay. Bella.
And effective immediately, I must resign and distance myself from Mriya Report. I have already logged out of Gmail. Please remove me from the website. I will remove myself from Alcon and Briefing Room. Thank you very much.
Shaggy.
Yeah, hi Scott, hi everybody. Yeah, well, as everyone knows, I was a co-host and then wasn't, and then came back to try and help out because I could see there was co-host issues. But I came back on the understanding, or I thought, was that Joe had taken a step back, as I've known for a year he's the problem. He doesn't seem to have taken a step back. In fact, indeed, he seems to have gone out onto spaces and gone a bit bonkers. And the Sarah Bills thing for me was a really big wake-up call, and all the other spaces he's been on as well. So because I came back thinking that things had changed and Joe was going to be taking a back seat and things would get better, and they don't really seem to have, but he doesn't seem to have taken that back seat or been pushed out or been pushed to a back seat. So also for me, effective immediately, I'm going to have to resign. I love all you guys. And yeah, I hope to see you around British Sphere, fighting the good fight for Ukraine. Thanks a lot, Scott.
Thanks, Shaggy. Okay, I didn't really see this coming, so I'm a little shell-shocked at the moment. I will miss these people, and I will just see what we can do to support Ukraine. Yana.
Yeah, I think Aria was before me, but well, I'll be quick. it was it was an honor and privilege to join Mriya Report, and I was so proud to represent this brand. But the stuff that I'm learning is really making it difficult for me to figuratively to look into the eyes of our listeners or Ukrainian people or the guests that I'm trying to invite to Mriya Report. And I cannot continue in good conscience either. So I would like to resign, and I think I'll find some other ways to help Ukraine. Yeah. I love you, guys. Bye.
I love you too. Well, we will convene as a board, and if anybody who doesn't want to leave wants to reach out to me, that would be welcome too. And see what our options are going forward. I can't see who that is raising your hand.
Probably me.
James.
Okay, James. Okay.
Yeah, so I heard some things about problems, and then I came, and then I saw Joe do some crazy things in the briefing room, and throwing people out, which I thought was extremely harmful to morale, harmful to the two people who were thrown out, and that would be Mockers and Robin. And so that was extremely hurtful to watch that in action, and then also to get to be in contact with them later about what he was doing in other spaces. And I wasn't informed, and it looked like he was using the Mriya Report's name to raise money, but nobody made it clear to me beforehand. And you've talked through that, so you don't need to explain about that. But in the meantime, though, after I confronted him personally about it, I was left very angry with him, and he was very, very angry and upset with me. So we haven't talked for months now, and we used to chat once in a while. So I have to say, I am not happy with this. I have put my name out there to say, when there was a lot of questions about finances, I came up and said, I put my trust in Mriya Report. And I felt like I was doing the right thing, but I had many reservations, and I probably shouldn't have gone that far out. And now it's what is mostly untenable, honestly, is just the load. I was thinking, 6 hours a week, I can do that. And 21 hours is more like it. And it's tough work. And it means 21 hours plus prep time. And so I don't think it serves me well to stay either. And especially if this blows up into anything in the news, I'd be frightened of that. So for my own protection, I don't want to be here. Now, Scott, don't take it personally. I like you. I respect you. I had fun the other night, and I thought we did some good work. So I think you're a valuable person. And Heather, you're a wonder. And I really like you and respect you. And at this point, I'd rather put my efforts somewhere where I can manage them better in terms of time. Very much care about Ukraine still. Want to find a way to preserve, my own sanity and still work for Ukraine. But this is not the place now as it's going. And what I've also recalled is that we have for a long time bled staff. And that's for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's the people's own reasons, but other times it's some abusiveness, and some of it is partly Joe. And at this point, I have to say my reasons are partly Joe, for all the reasons stated. And I'm just, I don't want to be involved with what's going on here. So with respect, I'm also resigning. So thank you for doing what you've done. It's a tough decision to make, and I'm extremely sad about this.
I think we lost Scott. I will try to call him. Peter, go ahead.
Good evening, folks, or good afternoon. Yeah, it's a shame we've lost Scott, because what I have to say really is sort of is best heard by him. I've run businesses for 25 years, and I've had to, do basic accounting, legally required accounting, and I've never run a charity, or I've been involved with a number of other charities, but I don't, not sort of on the financial side of things. But it seems pretty clear from what we've heard tonight and the answers we've received to the questions, particularly from Will, that the financial competence of this organisation as a charity is just not what it should be, and the board isn't doing its job of holding one person to account. Scott just admitted that Joe had been told he was not to spend money on these lockers, and he went ahead and did it anyway. And what were there any consequences for that? As Scott's no longer here, Sina, are you able to answer that question, or Heather, are you able to say what happened when Joe went ahead and did that, and he wasn't supposed to, and he knew he wasn't supposed to?
I don't know. I think Scott had the conversation with him. My understanding is he's supposed to pay the money back, from what Scott said here today. Yeah, I think Scott had that conversation with him, and I don't know. I think Scott probably lost his battery. I'll try to call him. Yeah, that would be, from what I've heard Scott say today, is that he was supposed to pay that. He's supposed to be paying that money back. I don't know beyond that, other than what Scott said today. I think Scott would have had that conversation with him, and I feel bad. I'm sorry that Scott seems to have disappeared. And I think that that was not intentional on Scott's part, by the way. I think he probably lost battery. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, he's coming back.
He's coming back? Okay, you got him? Okay. So, there you go. There's Scott. He's coming back.
Okay, then
So maybe Peter asked that question. Say that again, please.
Yeah, okay, I can see Scott now. Scott, are you able to hear us?
Yeah, I can. Sorry, my battery died, and I wasn't near my replacement battery, and now I am.
Okay, that's what we thought. So, yeah, I just came on to here, and I'll very quickly repeat what I just said, which was that I've sort of run my own businesses for 25 years, and I've had to provide sort of basic, annual accounting, and I've had to account for money, and those are just normal businesses, not a charity where you've got volunteers out on the line saying things like, we're raising money that's going to this and that, and we find out that there's all sorts of strange things like lockers in somewhere that's to do with, that's not been disclosed to any of us volunteers in any formal manner. We find that, minutes of board meetings haven't been distributed or available since March. That's virtually 6 months. I mean, it's pretty clear to me, and I hate to say it like this, that the board is not holding one particular individual to account, and the board's not doing it, has not been doing its job of discharging its responsibilities. You said earlier yourself that you had told Joe that he was not to spend any more money on lockers, which presumably is something that goes way back, that should have long since ended, I would have thought, nothing to do with our Mriya report's current activities. You said that he was told not to spend money on those lockups, and he's gone ahead and done it anyway, and that he said he would pay the money back. I mean, what was there any consequences for him on that when he did something that he was specifically told not to do?
Well, I mean, he got a stern talking to. I don't know if that's consequences or not. Clearly not, from the point of view of the people who have already decided to leave. But it's not like it was forgotten or blessed or something like that.
And do you think that's an adequate enough response to something like that?
Well, I didn't think that, in light of the what happened and what I was told, that it was grounds for kicking him off the board without, without his acquiescence, sort of a, board resolution to just kick him off.
The problem here is that this is not just an isolated occurrence, is it? It follows a pattern of behaviour where he just appears to be running the place like his own personal fiefdom, and now going on his own spaces in competition with Mriya Report, which is against the spirit of what we're doing, and even worse than that, repeatedly going on spaces with this Sarah Bills character after he's been told not to. And I think, to cut a long story short, I've had a lot of concerns about Joe being the problem for a long time, but what has nailed it for me now is that the board has demonstrated it's incapable of holding Joe to account, and I'm afraid to say, for that reason, I don't see how I can remain with Mriya Report. Very reluctantly, I'll be resigning as well. And I do want to say there's some wonderful people here, and I also want to say there's two people in particular who've done ridiculous hours that they really shouldn't have been doing, and any competent board would have identified that as a problem and would have been onto it before it has developed to the problem it has become. And those two people, of course, are Mockers and Prince Heather, who've done service way beyond what any reasonable individual should have been asked for on a voluntary basis. And the fact the board hasn't picked that up and been onto it is it just speaks for itself. You know the hours that they've both been doing, and I think there's not much more I can say about that, other than with a very heavy heart, I think it's time to move on and do things differently. So I'm really sorry to say I'm going to be leaving as well.
Well, on the Mockers and Heather front, that's been my top priority for months now, and has arguably put me behind on some of the reporting stuff. So I think the board has recognized it, but I don't think that's going to stay at this point, from what you're saying. But I don't know. I didn't, since my phone died, I don't know the order of
I think next, Scott, it's Alan. And I want to thank Will Teal for asking questions in a very reasonable way that have been on my mind and on a lot of minds of folks here at Mriya Report. You know, I've carried through previous crises here at Mriya Report. Many, many months ago, the crisis when we lost Doman. Doman, who I always regarded as the voice of Mriya Report. When I first discovered Mriya Report, it was Doman's authoritative voice and wisdom and humor that captured me, as well as commitment to Ukraine. So I carried through that crisis, but I cannot carry on at this point because in good conscience, I have too many doubts about asking generous listeners to become donors. And so very reluctantly and with conflict in my heart, I am resigning from Mriya Report. But with your permission, I would like to stay on until the conclusion of this meeting.
You're Terry?
You hear me, Scott?
Go ahead, Terry.
I found the unmute button. I don't have much to add to what other people have said here. My heart is broken. I personally have tried for months to be in the back channels to get something done about Joe, and nothing happened. There were excuses. There were, he's going to change. He's very important to us. And I think at this point, I feel like he's brought down the organization. And I also have a law license that I don't want to put in jeopardy. My heart is broken. I love all of you. I've worked very hard with all of you. We had a wonderful thing here that is just gone. So I'm also handing in my resignation. Thank you.
Terry.
Scott, I don't know if you heard me before, but just how much in person just 2 weeks ago. And it was a wonderful meeting. It was at the end of my time in Ukraine, and I think I even said to you that my number one priority is Ukraine. I didn't have quite the time I wanted in Ukraine, because I still love the place. And one of the things that I thought that coming to Mriya was doing was I was looking at the fact that how Ukraine was dealing with its corruption and the fraud and the backdealing and everything else. And I don't blame most of what is going on in the Mriya Report. I believe that you and Heather and Robin and everybody else that was involved on the board, apart from Joe. I didn't really know much about Joe, but what I have heard, I am just absolutely sickened by it. It seems to me it's everything corrupt. It's as corrupt as what Ukraine has had to deal with. And as I say, I don't blame you. I think you're a wonderful guy. I think everybody here at Mriya Report is wonderful. And it really hurt. I came back from Ukraine needing a bit of a break, but the very next day I was there co-hosting, nervous as I was. And I was so looking forward to getting back to doing something really worthwhile for Ukraine. My number one priority is supporting Ukraine. I don't want to
be associated with anything that has any doubt whatsoever of being above board, totally accountable, and totally transparent in everything that it's doing. I've had my own businesses in the past and they've gone under. I've had my own relationships in the past and they've gone wrong. And that has been so painful. And this is how painful. I love you, Scott. I love everybody here. But I want permission to stay on until the end of this meeting. I doubt I'll be saying anything more.
Of course. Love you too,
Other
Terry.
than, yeah, I'm resigning together and I'll do everything that I need.
I love you too, Terry.
Okay, well, I feel the need to regroup. I don't know what to say. I love you all. I don't think that saving Joe is more important than all of you. I doubt that that can be reversed, but yeah, I'm not sure what we have left, and so the good news that the IWI has is a pale consolation for all this departure. Chuck.
Yeah, I do want to say this before this meeting breaks up. There are definitely problems, but I want everyone listening to know I'm going down with a ship. Okay? I have never been involved in anything like this in my life. There are problems, absolutely, but I want you to know when you see the big circling suction for Mriya Report going under, I'm there. Okay, I'm not giving up on this project and what we're all going to do. And Scott, you have been the victim of a massive shit avalanche, and you have handled it with great dignity and with everything I have always thought about you. You've showed me today. Okay, and I would only say this, this is a rhetorical question. If any one of us were accused of misdoing at this level, would you want facts, dates, names, times? Would you want an investigation? Would you want your chance to speak in court? Sure you would. And I'd give you that. And that's all I have to say. You know, I know that everyone's decisions have come from the heart. I know how hard this is. I'm practically in tears myself. Okay, but Scott, I'm with you. I'm with you till there's nothing left.
Thank you, brother.
That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
I love you guys, and I listen. Everybody's family here. Okay, that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Chuck, very much. Thank you all for telling your truth. I feel like I've let you down by not being more aggressive with Joe. I'm honestly trying to gather the facts. I'm asked on a weekly basis, 2 or 3 times a week, change this, stop this, do this. Each one of those I take seriously. I spend at least 3 hours on that project. Don't come off the handle and say, oh yeah, you're right. I actually talked to the party that's got the complaint, then I talk to the party that is complained about, then I think about it. I try to make judicious decisions that keep the team together. And I tried to do that with Joe. And I feel like, that was not appreciated. So, so be it. I get it. But I had everybody's best interest and the organizations at heart, and trying to make judicious decisions and go a step at a time, and not cast the whole organization asunder. So that's that is my defense, such as it is. So I would be happy to. I love all of you, and I don't want to see any of you go. And I would welcome you back in different circumstances if that's within your remit or your moral judgments. Ayona?
Yeah, thank you. It's very hard for me to talk after Chuck because I love him, and as I love everybody that is involved in this. And usually I don't have much courage, but I should have the courage to speak now. So I am also doing, consultancy in ethics and CSR and things like this, and I'm used with transparency and procedures, and I even tried to talk about this about a year ago, and was pushed back quite harshly, actually, because I dared to ask for transparency. And I stayed here because of Ukraine. I stayed here because I want to help Ukraine. And I don't know if this purpose is, if Mriya report is fulfilling this purpose to the extent I would like it to fulfill. And I'm heartbroken, and I'm usually very loyal, and I'm usually staying with the ship, as Chuck said. But I believe it's kind of impossible. Those actions are long overdue. And yeah, I'm sorry, but we sacrificed family, we sacrificed work hours, we sacrificed everything we could to be here. And yeah, I'm sorry, but I will be resigning too.
Chuck?
Yeah, I think we've lost Scott again. And Chuck, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I should have taken my hand down, Alan. I'm still listening. So
I am sure Scott will be coming back. I want to. I can't even begin to express what I feel at this moment. I want to thank all of you. I especially want to thank Chuck Farrer. The opportunity to be on the Mriya Report was extraordinary. The opportunity to be on the Mriya Report with each and every one of you was wonderful. The opportunity to be on the Mriya Report with Chuck Farrer has been the experience of a lifetime. And I think nothing is more difficult than essentially getting into that lifeboat that's been lowered off the side of the ship that we've called Mriya Report. But that's what I'm going to do. And to all of you, the very, very, very best. Goodbye.
Bye, Alan.
Goodbye.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, hi. This has been a very difficult listen. I have certain codes of ethics in my job as well, and I can't be involved in anything that's not 100% above board. And what I've heard tonight has not really convinced me that everything is beyond reproach. More than that, for the year or so that I've been on Mriya Report, I have been aggressively pushing for donations, and I don't feel like I can go on doing that, having heard what I've heard, I'm afraid. So it gives me no pleasure, and I do it with a heavy heart, but I would also be hindering my reservation. You're all an absolutely amazing group of people. I think Scott is a great guy. And it's been an honor to sit next to all of you and to work with all of you. And Chuck, you're a star. I'm still a fanboy. And thanks so much for everything, everybody. But I will be ducking out here. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Great to work with you.
And now I just need to work out how to mute my mic.
So I don't see anybody else's hand, so I guess I'll go again. I greatly respect your view, Chuck, and it has also been my great pleasure to work with you and everybody else in this organization. Pros, all of one. The problem, the only problem here is I just see that I will also be resigning, but I want to offer a tiny piece of advice as a company director, having done that for a number of years. The only way for your organization now to go forward is, in my view, is for the board to come together and be a board. Fix the transparency problems, fix the accountability problems, and set yourself up to be able to eject members of the board and the organization if they are problematic, and do that in a transparent way. If any member of the group, look at the things that have happened here. We have a whole lot of what might be financial irregularities, but also might be explained away. But when you're talking about that in the context of the activities of Joe Freiberg, which clearly there is enough evidence to show that he's acted in violation of agreements with the board. He hasn't. He has definitely damaged the brand and the name. And for the board to continually think that they can carry on with Joe is a mistake, and that mistake has carried on so far that I believe the board, all of Mriya Report, will be tainted permanently by Joe, and I just don't think. I greatly admire your interest in trying to stay and go down with the ship or right it, Chuck, but I just don't believe. I believe it's irreparably damaged, and so I also am going to have to resign, and I was going to stay here till the last dog is hung and hear everybody out because I owe everybody that, and I want to hear everybody's view, but it's getting to be 4:00 in the morning, and I've got to be on the road at about 6, so I'm also going to drop off. It's been my pleasure to know you all, and wish you all the best of luck.
Well, Slava Ukraini, guys, this does not mean the end of our help for Ukraine. And I think that's the key thing that I'm focused on, is a way to help Ukraine. But we don't need to do fundraising to do that. I know it's great. We need to finish up somehow with the Omega teams. At least I feel a responsibility that way, but not here. Not in Mriya.
going to say my goodbyes as well now and leave. Knowing you all and working with you all over the last 2 years has been one of the greatest honors ever. And my sincerest hopes are that we're all in our own ways, however we choose, able to carry on helping Ukraine and helping to combat disinformation.
Folks, I think I'm going to leave now. But
sorry about that, Scott. Scott is coming back.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, sorry. I think I'm going to leave now. Before I do, I want to say, Chuck, massive respect to you. You're amazing. What I've learnt is just beyond what I could have ever expected. And to everybody else on here, I don't think any of us wanted to do this. It's not been easy, and I think we all have to weigh up what our consciences tell us, and at some point it just becomes untenable to remain, and I think most of us have reached the conclusion that that point has been reached. Anyway, guys, thanks very much. It's been an honour to broadcast with you, and I hope I'll see you again. Okay, good night.